Sorry, I don't know why it just ended there. Um, it's a continuation of the last video, in case you couldn't tell. You know, I don't know. It's just like, I know. I think about study abroad or internships or jobs or, um, you know, where's my family gonna live at? You know, how am I gonna get the stuff that I need and, you know, move abroad? And what's that gonna be like? You know, what issues am I gonna encounter there? You know, and figure all the legal stuff and the practical elements, like, you know, how am I gonna get a job? How am I? But yeah, you know, I don't want to think too much about that right now, because that's, you know, that's still a little further out in my future, and I don't need to overwhelm myself with all of the things right now. But I don't know, I did class registration, and I think I might have talked about that a little bit in one of my previous videos. I don't know. I don't really remember right off. But yeah, I mean, that went all right. I didn't get, you know, the 4 classes or whatever that I was hoping to, but, you know, it's all right. I got wellness classes, just like general health one. I got just like another GSDR class, you know. That's kind of like my, you know, writing or English or stuff like that kind of class. And then I got a philosophy one, so that's cool. Hopefully that'll be fun and interesting. And also accounting one, which, you know, I wasn't particularly enthused about, but, you know, it'll be practical. It'll be good. I think it'll be good to refresh myself on that kind of stuff, because I know we went over it in high school, but I don't know how much of it I actually remember. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, there's like a few small things that are like starting to pop in my head, and I'll probably have more as time goes along. But I kind of just want to reinforce that knowledge. I don't know. I guess one tricky thing that I've thought a little bit about, not terribly much about, is like, what should we be taught in school, right? Whether that be higher education or the public school system. You know, what's valuable? What should we hire teachers for? And it's hard because, right, I know a lot of people, you know, want to have hands-on experience, you know, practical knowledge, right? And some people, you know, we want to, you know, you want to have like a broad knowledge base, right? So you can learn, you can be aware about a lot of different things, right? You can be a little bit more well-rounded. And I'm sure there's probably a few other approaches as well. And I'll say for myself, it's a little hard because, right, on the one hand, I feel like I feel like it's a good idea to have some well-roundedness, you know, so we can have full knowledge about a lot of different things, you know, so that way you can engage in different conversations, you can have a little bit of feel with it, you're a little bit more familiar with things, and you're not just like completely, you know, blind to other stuff, especially, right, if you decide to change what your career path is, or if you want to or if you're, you know, taking on new hobbies or interests, right? You know, you want to be at least a little bit more prepared for that and actually know more things, instead of having to stress too much about it, you know, later on down the line. You know, and most people do change their minds at least a few times in their life, I reckon. But then again, it's also like, you know, you also kind of, I see the perspective a little bit of like, you want to give people like, you know, practical knowledge and experience, and you know, because it's more real. You want people to, you know, people want to be prepared. They want to be knowledge on stuff that they need, and especially because some people, right, they want to just, you know, and I get this because I myself feel a lot of the times the same very way, but, you know, you kind of want to plan out your future. You kind of want to think ahead and kind of, you know, get a lot of stuff done. And I understand that because I've felt that way myself many times too, right? I like getting things done ahead of time. That way I have less worry, and that way I just like having these checked off my list. But at the same time, I won't lie, it's like hands-on experience, while it sounds good, and it often is, to me that just sounds a little, I don't know, a little scary. And I often feel really anxious when, especially like even just in science classes in high school, where we had to like actually do physical projects, where we had to like go outside and like, do stuff. Or like, when I had my farm job here at Berea during the Berea Bridge program, that made me feel nervous. I mean, it was a little bit more so to do the fact that it was more like unpredictable, and it was just bad weather and a combination of other things. But a part of it was for myself, like, I don't know, I just don't like being uncomfortable. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try different things, because I have and I will. It's a part of life that you have to accept, right? And I'm not using this as I don't want to make this seem like I'm using this as an excuse not to try things, because I recognize I will have to, right? Especially if I want to grow or be prepared or, more realistic. But at the same time too, it's the kind of thing of like, and I know this isn't exactly how the real world works, but it's hard not for me to not feel like can I not just get everything done right now or in the near future and then just chill for the rest of my life? Because I don't want to, it's like, I just want to relax. I just want to, go around or, just, play games, watch, TV or YouTube, talk about interesting stuff, visit some places or whatever, right? I just want to relax for the rest of my life, and I don't want to, I don't really want to work. I'm like, can I not just get everything done right now? And so instead of taking that approach of feeling bad for that, here's what I'm going to do. So I'm thinking, maybe that indicates it does indicate to me that, that's something that I value in life, or just in general, I suppose, is just kind of relaxation, right? I feel, and kind of feeling like that, right? There's a little bit of a slower pace, right? That things are, I don't know if it's necessarily relaxation or slower pace, but I don't know, just kind of like low key, I suppose. I don't know. Right, that I don't have to be high strung. I don't have to be constantly on the go. I don't have to, I don't want to work. I definitely don't want to work in customer service, right? Because I don't want to deal with that emotional drama and baggage. I don't want to deal with the constant demands, and not only just that, but also other stuff like, the shit wage and bad benefits. And also, one of the crazy little thing with that too is, actually, did you know that what we call work benefits here is called workers' rights in a lot of the rest of the world? Crazy, I know, right? We should have that as a guaranteed thing, as a right. It's not a benefit, right? And it's so fucking messed up if we have to call that a benefit, where you have to trade, stuff that's actually helpful for you, because our culture, our country prioritizes the business and the business owners over the workers any day, every day. And that's a shit thing that I just fucking despise. But anyways, like, I kind of just, I'm kind of, that made me think of like, I know that I've put down psychology as my major, and the field is definitely interesting, right? There's a lot of cool things, to be learned in that, or in that field, or really any other sort of social sciences, like sociology. I know there's something else that I was interested in. I thought about making it be my minor. But at the same time, it's kind of just like, I don't really care. I don't really want to have to know a shit ton of different things for my job. I don't have to do like a crazy ton of paperwork or a lot of planning and things. Like, I don't care about having the highest wages. Like, I just want to make some good money, or at least like decent money, you know, and just have a very, like, very simple, very easy to understand and do job. I don't, you know, that's why I've considered, you know, do I, you know, as boring as it is, right? You know, would I maybe want to work in, you know, something like, you know, trash pickup or recycling or a janitor, you know, stuff like that. Because and especially stuff like the janitor, because it's just like, you know, I may not love, like, you know, dirty, you know, and smelly things, but, you know, if it's to clean up some of that stuff, you know, and then you just go home, you know, and just relax. I could just go home and just, you know, watch some TV or, you know, hang out with my pets. I'm planning on having a cat or two of my own at some point. You know, like, I don't want to deal with a shit ton of demands. I don't want to deal with drama. Yes, I want to make sure that I'm doing something to help people, but at the same time, it's just like, I just don't want to invite that drama, all of that emotional tension into my life, right? I don't want that. I don't want to feel like my mental health is on, you know, on the stake. I want to have plenty of time to focus on and enjoy my interests, focus on my hobbies, you know. I want to have time to just enjoy being outside or playing games, you know. And, you know, it may not necessarily mean that you know, if I don't have a job that's paying a lot of money, you know, that might not mean I get, you know, tons of opportunities to go on, you know, really big or long vacations or anything, but that's fine. I just don't want to work all the time, and I just don't want to feel bogged down by that. And, you know, I'm okay with accepting the fact that sometimes I'm going to feel that way, especially if I'm starting new jobs, especially if I'm trying to figure a lot of things out, you know, and that's part of life, right? And I accept that. But I just think it would be nicer. I think it would be, you know, I kind of just want to feel that sort of just content, right? And I want to have the space to be curious and explore things that I'm interested in, but also to just, you know, stay home or just walk around and enjoy being in nature for a little bit, or you know, playing games. I don't want it to be terribly complicated. You know, I want, if I'm going to learn things, I want it to mostly be because I'm interested in it, because it's a cool topic and I want to expand my knowledge. Not because I have to, not because it's practical, right? And I'm not saying I don't want to learn practical things. I do. I think that would be great. You know, that's why I'm taking the accounting class. That's why I put that one down, because I thought that'd be really good, you know, especially as I'm, you know, becoming much more independent. I want to make sure I'm being responsible, you know, and I think that's a great thing. But I don't know. And I guess the hard thing too is it's just like, you know, I just don't want to live, you know, in this fast-paced go culture. And I know that some people, like my mom or some people on the internet, to say, you know, oh, you don't have to move to improve your life. And I can see that. I can see kind of where they're coming from, right? But here's something to be noted. It's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to feel supported and feel like that you can actually like live the way that you want to when the whole fucking culture around you is against that thing and won't let people normally do that, right? Unless you're fucking rich, unless you're fucking wealthy and you inherited like a shit ton of money, or you're just one hell lucky of a dude or lady or whatever, and you just had an insanely, successful business, right? I don't care for that. I don't care about having a super high status or making tons of money. I just want to relax. I just want to enjoy my life, chill, have some things I'm curious about, try some things out, but, not have to go too far with anything if I don't really feel like it. And I just want to enjoy some time with my pets and my family, whether it's the ones I currently have, or ones I might have in the future. It doesn't matter. I think you probably get the point. But I don't know. I guess that's one thing I like about a little bit about these weekends. And a few of the breaks I've had, which I've not really had many of them, but I've had like a few. It's just like, I like not having to go to class or work, right? I like not, I still have to do, housekeeping stuff. I still have to do some homework and, a few club meetings or whatever other shit. But, it's nice because I don't have to worry about it. I can just do things at my own pace, and I don't have to feel constantly pressured by things, I don't like, being forced to do stuff. It's not a particularly enjoyable experience. I don't think anyone really does. I don't think it's unreasonable for me to ask, for me to, take some, trying to figure out something, take some little bit of time and money and effort to just say, you know what? Let's live in this way that we want to, right? Because I think that would be better for me. I think, that doesn't mean that I can't help people, but here's one thing too. Our culture claims to be, pro helping people, right? But it says that the way you have to do that is you have to sacrifice yourself, you have to burn yourself out, you have to work overtime with, pretty much no extra benefits. You have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of the time that you get for your own interests or hobbies or time with family or friends. You have to be willing to sacrifice that in order to get by, in order to help people, right? And this is why I feel a little mixed on my mom being a teacher. Because on the one hand, right, I sincerely hope every time that I think about this, that, that her teaching job goes well and that she enjoys it. I think she does, right? I don't think, and I say this, I don't mean that I don't think this would be like necessarily bad for her, but because I think it is something that she's passionate about and that she really, really wanted to do, and I want to support that dream, and I try to, but at the same time, I just want to say, you know what? You gotta take care of yourself. I want you to feel well. I want you to enjoy, yourself and the time with us at home. And I guess, right, I'm not really home any further because, obvious reasons, but, or still even just with Dad and Orphan, right? Or even just with the dogs or cats, although my cats don't really get along particularly well with her, but whatever. Or even the extended family. She likes being around with them sometimes. Or if any of her other, friends or people that she enjoys hanging out with. And it's frustrating for me to see her constantly being burned out, constantly being asked to do so much more, right? Not because I don't believe that she can't do it, but because I hate that you know, our culture, our jobs don't value our time. They don't value our humanity. They don't value the fact, they don't honor the fact that we have emotions, that we need breaks, actual breaks, not just 5 fucking minutes. We need like way longer than that. You know, we need times to recuperate, to focus. They don't acknowledge those. They try to get us to constantly push aside our emotions, to constantly, you know, repress them or suppress them. You know, they constantly ask us to do more for nothing more, right? Just for the sake of, we're gonna blackmail you, essentially. They don't say it, but we're going to blackmail you. We're gonna punish you. You're not gonna be able to get by. You're not gonna be able to get your kids to school or wherever, because you're not gonna have the money for that. You're not gonna be able to, you know, put, you know, gas and oil in your car and bring them there, you know, or even get yourself anywhere, right? And that you have the sort of dependency that continually punishes you. What the hell is going on over there? What the fuck? What is going on here? Someone was trying to like back out, and then the person who's behind them, I think they were honking, but I don't know. Alright, well, I'm glad they're going out of the way. That was annoying. Right, and I just don't want to deal with it. And I just say, you know, this, and again, right, I don't know how for certain this is actually in other countries. I can't know that for certain, and I can't and I shouldn't expect it to be perfect, and I can't and shouldn't, you know, it's not realistic to assume that there's, you know, this is gonna be like, you know, absolutely great everywhere in every sense. But I'm kind of just like, I'm done. I don't want to put up with this. I don't want to live under this. This is why, you know, this is one big thing why I don't want to live here in this country. And it's a little hard at the same time too, of the thing of like, well, oh yeah, sure, there's problems in other places. Okay, yeah, you know, but like, that doesn't mean we should just excuse, we should just tolerate, we should normalize, you know, just accepting this fate. No, I refuse to play like that. I refuse to accept that. This is why I'm fucking leaving. This is why I'm gonna leave as soon as I can after college ends. Right? You know, this is why I'm planning on, this is why I don't want to deal with that. Right? I want to help people, yes, but not at the expense of myself. I'm not willing for that, you know. Sure, yeah, if you live in certain places or if you lived in certain times in the past, yeah, sure, maybe you had to do that to get by, right? You know, we humans are social creatures. We depend upon each other to live, and that's fine, and that's good. But we're not in tribal times anymore. We're not, you know, living that way. We have greater technology and access to things. I don't want to live by that. I can choose that. I don't have to. I shouldn't have to, right? I refuse to play by these rules. I refuse to play these games because it's disgusting. It makes no sense to me, right? You know, it's immoral. It's unethical. It's disrespectful, not just to me, but to millions, if not billions of others. You know, and I don't want to play by that. I refuse to sacrifice myself for that. I'm willing to play the game a little bit while I'm here in college, right? Because I want to get a degree, you know, for some things, but I don't want to play this my whole life. I don't want to become cynical and jaded and broken because of this. I refuse to accept that fate, right? I am young, and yes, maybe I'm a little naive sometimes. Maybe I might be a little over idealistic. I don't know. Maybe I'm perfectly realistic. I don't know. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to sacrifice. This is my own goddamn life, right? And if I have to work a little bit to just get out of this and go somewhere else where at least it's a little bit better, where at least it's actually more acceptable to have those sort of things from a job, you know, the sort of things in a culture where you can actually fucking relax and you're not expected to be constantly demanded to do things that have no regard for people's health or safety or well-being, right? I will absolutely do that, right? I will absolutely do that. I will take the time and look this shit up. And maybe that doesn't necessarily mean that every single day I will, or that every single time, because, right, I also still want to relax too. But, right, I'm willing to do that. A little bit less pleasure right now, so I can have more of it for the fucking rest of my life after I leave this goddamn country. Right? This is one of the things why I'm not proud to be quote unquote an American, whatever, because I don't value being overworked. I don't value being in a country where we just disregard people's well-being, call ourselves caring, call ourselves if you actually fucking did, you would give us a goddamn break, actual breaks at school and work, right? You would give us the time to pursue our own interests, to pursue our own livelihoods, right? But no. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much further about that. And I think the point is very well driven right there. I don't need to say anything much more on that. As I accidentally untied my shoe here, let me tie that back real quick. But anyway, so as of today, though, bringing it back down to immediate future. I have a few schoolwork things. I have the internship class module thing. I also wanted to go ahead and work on creating some form of resume or something like that, and also to take a look at some of the stuff for one of my finals for one of my classes, sociology. And then after that, right, I'm just gonna work on more Minecraft videos, right? I might make some poems for some more videos, but I don't know. We'll see on that front. But anyways, this is a little longer than I meant it to be, but honestly, that's perfectly fine. I think that's all right. So anyways, hope whoever's watching, if there is anyone, I hope you have a good time, a good day, night, morning, evening, whatever time it is when you're watching this. I don't know. But anyways, see ya.